areas over there.
Yeah, Rommel put a bunch of...
Yeah. Well, anyway, they were impaled in the goddamn plywood.
Ooh.
A lot of them got killed from that, and so it was a bitch. See, we were supposed to jump and land at Etienneville. I don't know if it's even shown here. On the Druve River.
What was the name of it?
Etienneville.
Some of the other
But we didn't hit it. We got back to it 3 days, on the third day in garrison. And I think the Frenchman whose house we were living in got a little pissed off at us. And I don't know why, because we only emptied all his wine barrels, pulled the fucking mugs right out of the things in. We had free running wine. We had 500-gallon drums, you know, great big.
What, is this about the second day, or?
Well, we were there. I got shot on the 5th day.
5th day?
We killed a cow and put it in this fireplace in a cast iron bed.
You think he ratted on you then?
Or, yeah, I think he was a little pissed. But we had a guy, he had cows. He had 3 cows. And so this one guy, I can't remember his name now, but he said, shit, I'm from Texas. I know how to put your cow. And we didn't even let it cool down after he killed it. And skinned it. And we threw it right in the goddamn baby bed in this fireplace. And burnt this son of a bitch's meat right up. It was just like eating charcoal. And because they kept putting more wood in the fireplace. And goddamn, I think he might have been really pissed at us. That's why he probably told them where we were and where we were going, because we'd asked him where we could get a rowboat, because we were going to swim, put our equipment in the boats, and then hold on to the boat in the water and get across the Druve to the. But then later on, when I got captured, they said the Air Corps blew the 3-span bridge the day of D-Day during daylight hours. So shit, it wouldn't have been any good for us to have the demolitions. Well, it would have helped when they opened up on us, but. Oh.
I was going to ask you. Do you remember the town in England where you...
It was, we were a little bitty town, Burbage, I believe it was. It was near Hinckley, about a mile from Hinckley.
Hinckley. I wonder if that's on my map here.
I think it was.
Was there a big airfield there that you...
No. They had to put us in trucks and took us quite a ways to the airport, yeah. I had some good maps, but I don't
remember what part of England that was? Was it north of London, or?
No, it was south of London, somewhere. Leicester or Coventry wasn't too far away, because I got on the bus one day and got on the wrong bus, went to Coventry, and them son of a bitches in Coventry wouldn't even look at me.
Well, here's Coventry way up here.
Well, it might have been south.
Here's
south
London.
There somewhere. I don't know.
There's London, there's Coventry. What was the other town you said it was near?
Hinckley.
Hinckley. There's Hinckley.
Where's Hinckley?
Right there.
Oh, that's above?
Right there's Hinckley.
Yeah.
It's right near Birmingham.
Yeah. We couldn't go nowhere.
And there's Leicester.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Right in there,
yeah.
My grandpa was from England, but I don't. I remember it ended with a sure, but I don't remember.
A lot of them do. So then they bust you to the airfield where you got on your C-47.
But we didn't know where the hell we were or nothing. They just took us to the airfield.
They didn't tell you where you were going to go to Europe, huh?
No, they just showed us what we had to do. As we had worked for months laying demolitions, and so we could do that three-span bridge. Go out and they would explode dynamite caps behind us and stuff when we were detonating or or destroying landmines and stuff. They thought that would be a good experience. If you moved, you'd fucking die. And they would set the dynamite caps off behind us. And we didn't dare to move, jump or nothing from hearing the explosion.
Did you make any practice jumps in England?
We were going to make one practice jump. We took off at night, and it was a round pod. They dropped some of the guys, and they were going through house roughs and everything, getting fucking telephone wires and
some of them got killed.
And some of them did, and so they canceled, and then we just went back to the airfield and landed.
Probably because they knew you'd be jumping at Normandy.
But that was the only time that we ever tried it.
How many jumps had you made in your training over in this country?
5. My 6th
were you at Bennington or?
Yeah, well, we were in the Alabama area where we stayed during our basic training, which was nothing really. The barracks didn't have windows, and half the club bugs were gone because they wouldn't give us enough heat for them little stoves they had in there. And so the guys just broke the windows out and burned the windows, the fucking floorboards and everything. You had to watch yourself when you were walking because you could slip through a crack or a board that's been taken out of the floor. And they said, "Oh, if that's the way you son of a bitches want to live, that's the way you're going to live." You know?
They didn't
they wouldn't
give you any firewood or fix it up.
No. Well, anyway.
So you made 5 jumps before you got to...
Yeah.
And then you went over there probably on a ship, right?
Yeah. It took us 14 days to go over the North Atlantic in the winter, and that's the North Atlantic. We would be down in the bottom of a swell one minute. You couldn't see nothing but water on both sides, the front and back of you. And the next minute you'd be up on top of a swell, and shit, you'd look like you're a 2 or 3 story building.
Seasick?
Well, a lot of guys did. I ate boiled eggs all the way over, because some old sailor told me to do that.
Eat boiled eggs?
Yeah, hard-boiled eggs.
And it worked.
And it worked. And all, it was a British ship anyway. And all they served was fucking mutton. Greasy shit, and it was cold. And guys were fist fighting all the time. Because somebody you had to stand up when you ate, and long, and so there'd be a guy here and a guy right across, who, and it was a goddamn many fist fights, you can't believe it. The guy puke on the other guy's plate or tray, and fist fights had started. There was puke. Puke all over hell. And Jesus Christ.
What a mess, huh? 14 days of that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, and they had us down the 3rd hold because we had gotten trouble at Fort Meade on the way over. So General Mallon, who was the guy that pinned that boxing medal on me out in Arkansas, he was now post commander at Fort Meade, and from Little Rock and Camp Robinson. He made a 2-star general, and they moved him to Fort Meade. And we killed 3 MPs and put the rest of them in the hospital out there. And because they had beat the piss out of one of our guys and left him between 2 buildings, and it's snow on the ground, colder than a hump.
Where is this in
Fort Meade?
Is that, I'm not familiar with that, in New Jersey or?
Maryland.
Maryland.
And so we weren't allowed to go nowhere. They restricted us wherever we went. And some of them, part of the 82nd, when they first got over to England, London, stationed that area, there was a bunch of black soldiers, and they called themselves American Indians, and the English girls were going with them because they were going with American Indians. They'd spend their whole paycheck on one date, and then when the white guys would go with them, well, the American Indians, they spend all kinds of money on them. And so some of the guys in the 82nd says, you black people, if you're in town after sundown, your ass is going to hang from a lamppost or a tree or whatever. And that's what they did. They killed them.
They did?
Yeah. And they even, in the Stars and Stripes Army newspaper, said that they'd even cut the nipples off of some of the blacks who were dating
the black?
Yeah. And so we were just barred from going anywhere.
We were a tough bunch.
Well, the Germans called us the devils with the baggy pants. And they probably were right. I don't know.
This medal you got for boxing, that was in Meade or in...
No, Little Rock, Arkansas.
Little Rock, Arkansas?
When I was taking basic training. I had it knocked out there. I didn't have KP or guard duty.
Because you were on the boxing team?
Yeah. I went out just for the exercise. And
Well, were you a flyweight or a...
senior welterweight.
Senior welterweight.
Right next to a middleweight at that time. And so they Captain Mazurek, I think was his name, Polish guy. He loved boxing. He said, "You're on the boxing team." And I said, "Like hell I am. I just went over there for..." He said, "You are on the boxing team." And so I had to fight. And I won the regimental, and then I thought, well, that's good enough now. You know. He said, "No, you ain't quitting until you win the camp championship." So I had to fight through the rest of the matches until they had done. I won. I got beat on my semifinals for camp champion. I boxed a guy by the name of Red Burnham. And he was a pro, and they fought in Madison Square Garden. And we stood in the middle of the ring for 3 rounds and beat the piss out of each other. He got a split decision.
Really?
Yeah. And then they found out he was a pro, and they disqualified him. And then I fought the next week with a former champion. And I hit him in the first round. He was just like, I couldn't knock him down, but they wouldn't stop the fight, and I kept telling the ref, "Stop the fight. The guy can't." His eyes were all glassy, and I couldn't put him down. So I just sparred with him the rest of the time out there. I won naturally, and then I got to medal pins.
For the base champion,
Yeah.
huh?
But I felt bad about it because the guy didn't. After I hit him that one shot, he was out. And
when did you enlist in
December
paratroops?
40. Well, that was after I went down to Tyler, Texas. They moved Camp Robinson down to Tyler, Texas. They call it Camp Family. So we up a new camp down there. And then they started, my company had to train handicapped guys with 1 or 2 fingers gone or 1 eye gone and shit like that, or arthritis. They'd fall out before they got out of the battalion area. And I said, that's all the shit I'm going to take. And I applied 3 times to get me airborne. And they'd say, well, you didn't pass. And I after the 3rd time, I went in to see Captain Cobb. He was a hell of a nice guy. And I said, "Captain Cobb, I have applied 3 times to get me airborne, and they haven't passed me, or allowed me to leave." And I said, "If you don't let me join the airborne, you're going to have the worst fuck-up you would have ever seen in this Army. And I said, I'll fuck everything up that I touch. And he said, you really want to go that bad, huh? So he said, okay, you can go. So he called the Jeep, and they took me over, and I passed my exam. And next morning, the whole battalion fell out, because I'd been on the guys since I was in Arkansas. And the whole battalion fell out. And all the non-coms and everything that I knew, and in the battalion, and U.S. flag and their flag and all the other fucking flags, and they all gave me a rifle salute.
Big send-off.
Yeah.
Well,
And well, we had a lieutenant in our company who had gone to jump school and didn't make it. And he was a nice-looking guy, and he was well-portioned and everything. He said, I don't think you can make it, Jack. He said, I went through, and he said, I got kicked out, but I couldn't make it. That's all he said. When he said that, I said to myself, I
a challenge.
anytime someone says I can't do something, then I'm going to do it. And so that's why, you know, I didn't even tell Doris I said I was transferred from Texas to Georgia or Alabama area to train airborne guys. I didn't even tell her because I'm sure she was worried, or I thought she was. And anyway,
You're still centered.
yeah. Well, anyway.
So that training must have been pretty tough for the airborne. Huh?
Yeah, it was. We never walked anywhere. It was always run.
On the double.
Yeah, and if you did something wrong, 50 push-ups. My God, you did 50 good ones too, or you did 50 more.
Is that where you learned how to do your famous one-arm push-up?
Yeah. There was instructors down there that they were there for a long time, I'm sure. They could do 500 one-arm push-ups. 500, that's religious. And I never got anywhere close to that, but I could do one-arm push-ups. I could do 19 on each arm and 65, I think, on both of them. That's the most I ever got. But kids in Perry, when I used to be a football coach there, track coach, we'd go out for the first day of practice, and I'd be, I'd watch them all, and they would be so goddamn ready. They'd be sweating and trying to do two-arm ones, and they couldn't do them. And they were so mad at me. And I went back to a funeral. One of our teachers died down there. And one of the guys said, can you still do your one-arm push-ups? And I said, well, I haven't tried it for a long time, but I think I could. He said, I know you could. He said, well, we used to get so mad at you. When we were dead tired, and you were up there in front of us doing the one-arm push-ups, and I do about 10 out of each hand at that time. But now I broke my shoulder, and I couldn't do it now.
Years ago, I was coming from Chicago or someplace on a plane and sat next to this young fellow. I think he was in a Marine Corps uniform or something. Started visiting and told him, where I was from. And I said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Perry. I said, oh, you don't know Jack Lambert? He says, sure. He says, I know. It's his best teacher I ever had.
Yeah.
He couldn't say enough
Who was
about
that?
you. This is years ago. I can't remember his name, but I thought that was really great. He played football for you, I think, and everything.
Yeah.
But, no, I said he's pretty strict disciplinarian. And yeah, he said he's sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah. Well, that was nice of him, I tell you. I was well liked wherever I went.
How many years did you teach in Perry?
9 years.
And before that, you were at Centerville, weren't you?
For 3 years. And then 24 here.
24 here.
Yeah. Well, I'd be fired the first half hour, if I got hired in there now.
You know,
Because
that's
I
what's-
would not take the goddamn smart remarks.
That's what's wrong with our school system,
Yeah.
is they don't have any discipline anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody's sending their kids to Catholic school.
Well, and if
Over
they
in our
don't
area,
behave
the
there,
Christian
they're
Reform.
gonna kick them out of there, and they'll still be coming back to the public schools.
Mhm.
But if they do the discipline bit, and it's just the school systems have allowed the laws to be passed, and I've said that for years and years. It's wrong. The parents are the ones that should discipline
Mhm.
their kids. And if they're trained right at home, they won't have the discipline problems at school. But he won't do it, Bob. And they blame one parent families and stuff. That's a bunch of shit. They just want to have the kids. They want to have sex enough to have a kid, but they don't want to bring him up.
Yeah.
That's what the problem is.
Mhm.
And I'm glad I'm out of there, because I wouldn't last a day. I wouldn't last an hour. First time a kid said something to me, smart ass, he'd have got decked right there.
Be a knuckle rap or a
Damn right. And
shoulder punch.
Well, yeah, and I still think they want freedom, but they have to have the responsibility. And all kids are like a canoe. They work best when paddled from the rear. That's the damn truth, and it's always been that way, by God.
And yet these people advocate absolutely no use of corporal punishment, you know.
Yeah. But I'll bet you I'd hate to be the kid of one of those son of a bitches, because the kid's going to be worthless.
That's right.
Well, anyway, I got
Listen,
down to about here.
Well, you don't have to read all that. I just wanted you to see that Lee Mallory is very much against the
Yeah.
drop. But,
Yeah.
you don't have to look at that anymore.
Well, that's good. That would be a good.
I can leave the book here. It's I haven't read it all, but I've skipped through it, and it's some pretty interesting stuff in there.
Bradley was a pretty good job.
And there's some good chapters in there about Patton, you know, and all the
Yeah.
trouble he used to get
Yeah.
with his mouth. And,
Yeah.
well, when you they bust you then to the airfield where you got on the.
Yeah.
What?
We didn't know where the hell we were.
You didn't know whether it was a drill or
No,
they didn't
we
tell
didn't
you.
at
were
that
going-
time. Until after we got there, then we found out. But then you were restricted to the area. You couldn't do anything except they showed us. They had a big sandbox, and they had some names of towns that I can't remember. But anyway, we didn't even know it was France. Honest to Jesus, we didn't. Or I didn't. Maybe I'm not smart enough to remember that, but they said this is the Div River, and it was a glass, and the sand on top of it. Some green and some sandy looking. And so I said that this Etienneville, I think was the name of the town we were supposed to jump at, 11 miles or 18 miles behind the lines. And he dropped us 29 miles behind us. And
I think it tells them here that they dropped you in the wrong place.
yeah, well, down in Sicily earlier, they dropped him 60 miles off the drop zone right in the fucking sea. And a bunch of them died and drowned. And with as much equipment as we had on, there was nobody could endure, you know.
Didn't take you too long once you got on the planes and headed
No,
over there.
no,
Or
it
did
was
they
all good.
circle quite a long time before they finally went in?
Well, we got into some formations. I don't know if that son of a bitch that I was with knew enough to fly in formation, but it seemed like we got on the plane about 11:30. We jumped about 9 minutes after 1 or something.
11:30 at night you got
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And about how many paratroopers were there on the plane?
There's 17.
17.
10 of them were dead before we hit the ground. In my plane.
Really?
Yeah.
From anti-aircraft fire?
No, machine gun fire.
Machine gun.
Because there was just machine guns shooting up at us. And the damn Germans used tracer bullets so we could watch them leave the barrel of the gun.
That's, I heard a guy on the radio coming over today say
And
the sky was
they
just
were
full of
arching.
tracers.
Yeah. Well, which was good because they could track you more, but
Scare the daylights out of you too, then.
well, hell, I had, all of us had bullet holes in our chutes. But, you know, the bullet hole ain't gonna kill you. It's a fucking bullet's gonna kill you.
So do you
And
think...
you could slip left or right or forward or backwards a little bit. I mean, you could see one sort of coming your way if you followed it up. And they were coming up and arching. That's how high we jumped. And we were supposed to drop from 1,100, 1,000 feet to 1,800 feet. But Jesus Christ, a machine gun bullet go up a long ways before it starts arching. Or arcing, I mean. And I was lucky, I guess. Hell,
10 guys are killed before they ever...
Yeah, they were dead when they hit the ground. And one of the 7 of us broke his leg when he landed. He hit a tree and swung and broke his femur here. And he nearly shot me. He thought I was a German. And I straightened his femur out. German paratroopers picked him up the next morning and took him all the way up to Cannes. There was a big hospital there, and the Air Corps had already bombed the whole hospital, because they dropped smoke bomb for the lead bomber, and the wind changed, and it blew right back over the hospital. So the bomb run, they just destroyed the hospital. So
That guy ever make it back?
yeah, he got when they got there and it was destroyed, they just brought him in a jeep way back. He kept him drunk all the time so he wouldn't feel the pain. He had to let him keep his rifle and all his stuff and everything. When he got the rims, and they took it all away from him, or the guards at the hospital took it away. And I saw him once after that, but I know he survived.
What all gear did you have? I know, remember you used to tell us about the sharp knife you carried.
Yeah, my dad and the guys up in the machine shop made that for me.
Oh, that was a special knife.
Yeah, I had my name, my serial number etched on both sides of the blade. They made it out of an old file. And had a 10-inch blade on it. And I had my name, Jack Lambert, etched on it, and my serial number on both sides of the blade. They etched it in. Leather handle, beautiful. I worked for hours and hours. I could shave with it.
I remember that knife, I think.
That's the first thing the Germans took off me.
But I remember your brother talking about it, or I remember something about it. Maybe I've never seen it, but
Yeah, it had double-edged blade on it. So, they nearly got me German with it.
What kind of rifle did you have? Or did you have M1?
Yeah. And they were
that's pretty good.
broken down in 3 parts when we jumped.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, and we had to put them together. And that's one of the bad things with the old type chutes. And the new ones, all you have to do is tap here and it comes right off.
You mean the harness and everything?
Yeah, the harness and everything comes right off. But the chutes that we had, you had to have buckle snaps. Yeah, it took time. And then we had to put our rifle together after we got the chute off. And so, you know, a lot of guys I'm sure got killed while they're getting out of their chutes.
Did you have any medical stuff with you? Any morphine shots? Or anything?
No morphine shots or nothing. Just we had a medicine kit. They had some 4x4 ace bandages in. But
that was about it.
Yeah.
You didn't have any sidearms or anything?
No. Some of the guys that were using carbines had pistols, and some of the guys who would been in Africa or Sicily or Italy had Beretta handguns. and
Well,
stuff.
some of your guys had seen action down in Italy
yeah.
and Anzio then.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and in Naples, the Germans had planted a time bomb down in the sewer, and they looked in the sewer, but they didn't look for it. And when it went off, it killed over half the company.
Mm.
They scooped them up with scoop shovels, and a lot of the guys were still dazed and stuff. But they hated Germans. Tim did, you can't believe it, Bob. And that's why I think they were so mean.
Do you think your plane that you jumped from ever made it back, or?
I have no idea. Never,
Mhm.
I never found the pilot's name out. And I don't know if he made it back, but if he's as dumb as I think he was, he probably ran out of gas somewhere in the middle of the channel. I hope he did anyway. I shouldn't say that, but I could
He
never.
dropped you how far off? Where
11 miles farther in.
Farther
We
in.
should've, yeah. And he dropped us on the way in even. He didn't turn around.
The 82nd was supposed to kind of protect the Utah beach, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
That's what this Lee Mallory and,
Yeah.
and Bradley had the big argument over.
Yeah.
Bradley felt that they had to have the paratroopers to protect their
Well,
from the
you know,
shipboard
and the
peninsula.
plan was well designed, but it ended up with as much confusion for the Germans, because every time that they would get a telephone communication from somebody, they say, a bunch of airborne guys here, you know, and what are we supposed to do? Because they had to follow orders strictly. And that's the difference between German army and our army, I think. We had the ingenuity or the...
Improvise a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah, we worked better.
Well, didn't Rommel flood a lot of the area where you were going to jump
Well,
to?
in the marsh area, yeah, there was a lot of marsh area, and a lot
What
of
was
guys
it like
died
right
there.
where you landed? Did you
It
land
was
on
countryside,
fairly dry?
yeah. Yeah.
You didn't land in any trees or?
Well, there was just hedgerow trees and an orchard or a small orchard here and there.
Mhm.
But hell, when we jumped, you could see the Germans running around on the floor or on the ground down there, and it was a bright full moon.
Was it
and
really?
you could hear them hollering and talking.
Shooting
Yeah.
at you?
Yeah. Yeah, and then
I wonder
when
anybody's
we
running.
saw the machine guns start, then we said, them son of a bitches are trying to kill us. That's the way I felt anyway. And I was alone then from when I landed until about 7:30 next morning.
Really? You were all alone?
Except for Jones, when I straightened his leg.
Mhm.
I walked through a herd of cattle up a hill, not a real steep hill, but it was sloping back towards where I landed. And I had already found my squad sergeant, Langford. He was dead, he was still in the chute. He hit in a hedgerow, because the chute was still hanging, but he was on the ground. But he had been shot, and I didn't realize that he was dead, you know. And I slapped his face, and I tried to bring him to. And just then a plane went over, one of our planes, and machine gun opened up about 30 yards from me at the most. And here I was slapping his face and trying to get him to. Then I thought, well, shit, he must be dead out, you know. He was dead already, he must have been shot. And then I got the hell out of there, and I got in that herd of cattle, and they were just pasturing, you know, out there in the pasture field. Went up this hill, and then I ran across Jones, and he thought I was a German. And but we had them little.
I was going to ask you about
flickers,
those, yeah.
And the password was Thunder Welcome. And you were supposed to click that and then wait a second and then holler Thunder, and they were supposed to say Welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And but he was about ready to shoot me before I did that. And then after I got through straightening his leg out the best I could, I headed away from, I kept right going, and then I turned to the left to the hedgerow. There was a little bit of a swamp down there, just a little bit of ways, but it was a real small little thing. And so I stayed there until about 7:30 in the morning, and then pretty soon I walked a little farther down this dried up creek bed, or whatever the hell it was, but then I saw some other guys in my company. It was a total of 7 of us survived. And so we stayed in that damn creek bed all that time, all day, and the Germans were running all over.
How many of them were in that area then?
Well, just our plane was the only ones that
Well,
I
the
ever
7
saw.
guys that survived the jump?
Yeah. There was 6 of us, really. There was 5 that joined me. Jones was already picked up by the German paratroopers. And they treated him, he told me they treated him just like a king. Because the German airborne people thought we were
going to take care of their own.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. So anyway, it was a bitch.
So by 7 in the morning, you had 5 or 6 guys together.
Yeah. Then Seward came in, and as I was getting the hell out of the area where Langford was shot, a grenade went off. He had got that machine gun with a grenade, and because he had gone through Italy, Sicily, or Africa, Sicily, and Italy, and he just threw a grenade because he was close to them too, and killed them all, I'm sure. And so anyway, and we hunkered down during the day, moved at night. Took us 3 nights home. Yeah, 3 nights to go 11 miles.
Did you collect some more guys for using your clickers?
No, never saw any.
Just a small,
just our
little group, huh?
Yeah. And we could see horse-drawn artillery. We could hear them and see them a quarter of a mile away. Yeah. They were all going towards the north.
Horse-drawn artillery?
Yeah. Big horses, nice-looking horses. And but we didn't dare to do any shooting because hell, all we had was our rifles or carbines, and so all we could do was watch them and try to survive until we could get more guys. But the Frenchmen eventually, at the end, they brought in, so it was 51 of us all together from mostly 82nd. And that's when we decided we were going to try to get across the Blue River by using the rowboat. We figured it had to be a goddamn rowboat on that river somewhere. And we were going to take our equipment off and throw it in that boat and swim beside it on the side. And about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon that day, and I was the first guy they shot at. And it missed me. I think the German was a bad shot because he probably was excited, and when he pulled the trigger, he pulled it this way, and it went right in front of me, right through the hedgerow and right in front of Murphy. And then they opened up all over. And they had us, we controlled 2 sides of a field, and they controlled 2 sides, and they gradually worked us around this way. And I got shot about an hour later. And
right in the leg, right?
yeah. Well, I and a sergeant had, we had, I don't know who shot the German, but a machine gunner. And so they were waving a white flag, and So a sergeant went off from the north side, and I went off from the west side. It's two sides we controlled. We got about halfway out to the chicken village.
In other words, they
yeah, they suckered us. I was a damn fool, and I'm sure he was too. But he got cut almost in half.
the other guy.
Yeah, the other guy who was coming to get the German. And I happened to look down and I saw the machine gun belts coming through the grass and cutting grass off. And I dove for a dead furrow in this field, and I got hit while I was in the air. And before that, I walked up a little bit of a road, path going up into this field. And when I got at the top of the hill there was a hedgerow on my right, about 5 yards, 7 yards from where I got shot. And I didn't see anything. And this German had snuck in behind me, and he shot at me with a Prcht gun, machine pistol. Missed me. And I went from here to that goddamn clock home. And he missed me. And I spun and shot once, and I hit him here, come out of his elbow here or something. And he dropped his machine pistol, grabbed his arm, and said, "Mein Gott, mein Gott." And so he believed in God. And he ran down the road to beat hell, and holding his arm. And I saw him later, after I got shot, and he dragged me down. The two medics that came out to get me, the Germans, they were scared to death they were going to get shot. And they kept pointing to their armbands on me and said, I can't remember what they called me, but I'm sure it was, "You're a nice guy." And I said, "No, they ain't gonna shoot you if you got an armband on. They won't shoot you." So they were the ones that took all my stuff. The goddamn Germans in my hand. My mother gave me a watch, and she bought one for John Warner and for me before she died. And so I don't know. They took all my cigarettes. That's what pissed me off more than anything else. They took my cigarettes from me. And because I had lost a hell of a lot of blood already by the time they came and picked me up. And I was in shock almost, because I was just shaking. I had lost the hell.
Were you wounded up in this part of your leg? Or
Down here.
Down
The whole back of my leg out.
on your calf?
Yeah, and I went through the tibia and shattered that for 6.5 inches. Blew the back of my leg out. And I didn't
Your
dare to
left leg.
sit up. Yeah. I didn't dare to sit up because they were shooting over my head for probably an hour after I got shot. I just had to lay there.
Mm.
And I did get an ace bandage put on it to stop the bleeding a little bit. And when they captured me, well, anyway, the guy that shot at me with the machine pistol, when I shot him, Yo, a friend of Corporal Yo, we called him, or I never knew his first name, and I was lucky to remember his last name, but Y-E-O was a relatively easy name to remember if you remember it's only 3 letters long. And he stood up to get the machine gun that shot me, and he got shot right between the eyes when he did it. And I always felt I'd give anything to know. He was from Pennsylvania, but I can't remember what part of Pennsylvania. And I got back to the United States. I looked in a Pennsylvania phone book, and there's a goddamn list of names about that long by the name of Yo. Well, I wasn't going to call all of them because I didn't have any money. So I never called anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel real bad about that he stood up to help me and got shot. And I heard that later on in Jones told me he got shot and dead. And the guys held out until they ran out of ammunition.
But they had to surrender then too. Then.
Yeah, because they brought artillery in and exploded it in the limbs of this orchard and down on the guy. They ran out of ammunition, but boy, we took a lot of buzz. I'll tell you, I went to that farmyard.
And this was the 5th day after you?
Yeah, 5th day after D-Day. And I was the only American there. There was the goddamn wounded Germans all over the place in that whole farmyard. And they were all looking at me, and I saw this one guy had shot at me and missed me. And he was combing his hair with a bright red plastic comb that Doris had sent me. And I never used it. It was in my pocketbook. And they had divided the money up, and apparently he got the
This is the guy you shot in the arm?
yeah. And he was smiling at me. We were that close. He'll never forget me, and I'll never forget his face, I'll tell you. And he was smiling and combing his hair straight back, you know, long hair. High up here. I mean, it was short on the sides, but it went all the way back. And he nodded and smiled, because he figured probably I'm out of the war too. And then they took me to another farm. They made me get into the ambulance by myself, and took me to another farmyard down the road about 2 miles. And it was still, I was the only American there. And that's where I asked a young German soldier for a cigarette, because I was really hurting, you know, I wanted to have a cigarette. And he gave me 2, and this buck sergeant, German sergeant, saw him give me 2 cigarettes. He came over and grabbed them out of my hand, crushed them, and he chewed the hell out of that guy. And gave him a concussion grenade, and said, you know, he was really ripping. Then the sergeant gave me a shot, and he pulled my skin out like that, stuck the needle straight through and squirted it on my chest.
Oh.
That's the only thing I had done. But besides that, German, when they captured me, put another band-aid on, or not a ace bandage on. It was brown, and I didn't know if it was clean or what, you know. But that's the only thing they ever did for a month, 11 days to me.
No kidding. A month and 11 days?
11 days I went without a cast. My leg was just dangling. And they didn't have crutches. And so I had to jump on my right foot up and down stairs in the hospital where I was at, Rennes. And guys with amputees, you know, legs off, they would come in and tear them off, and they'd tear the hide and everything. There was no grease or salve or medicine, no shots, no nothing. And they'd bleed and hemorrhage again, and then they'd have to stop them. They'd take them out, wash them, bring them back, and you never know if you got your goddamn right bandage or not. And we got a quart of water a day for 12 of us to drink. A quart a day for 12 of us, yeah. That's why I think we were all dehydrated so bad. And the food was the black German bread with yellow and green mold throughout. We got that in the morning, about a fifth of a slice, looked like a slice of pie. And they served it in rusty pie tins. And the spoons were an alloy. They had rust on it, stain. They would feed all 700 of us, or 712, I think, when we got recaptured. And they would just collect them, feed 30 guys more. Collect them, 30 guys more until they got them all fit. And
no washing in between.
No. They prepared the broth out in the courtyard in an old scalding kettle that we used to use to scald hogs. We butchered
This cast iron thing?
Yeah, out and build a fire underneath, heat the water up. One day they brought a cow carcass and put down newspapers on the ground. And I happened to be out there that day because I think it was the first day I had a cast on. And I was out looking for cigarette butts. Because we smoked breadcrumbs, tea leaves, sassafras, or peppermint leaves, lit off the blankets, and wood shavings rolled in toilet paper. And we'd smoke at it 2 o'clock every day because that's when they always bombed the town. And plaster would come off the wall and the ceiling from the reverberation of the artillery or the bombs hit. And that relaxed us a little bit because I never smoked marijuana, but I'll tell you that was the strongest goddamn cigarette you ever. And we'd get a drag a piece and we'd go around, and boy, everybody was watching everybody else. And then they'd get a second drag, and the last guy had to have a piece of cardboard, and he'd put the cigarette in there like that, and just barely enough to hold it, and he'd take the last puff out of it, and then we would save the tobacco even out of that. It was only about that long, but we would save it because that was the only tobacco we were going to get. And they wouldn't give us Red Cross packages because we wouldn't divulge our objectives. And so that's what we smoked. And I decided right then, if I survived that goddamn POW bit, nobody would ever tell me I can't smoke. And they ain't going to.
You smoked everything?
Damn right I have, and I'm going to continue. And
how long were you a prisoner then?
Just 7 weeks and 4 days, but I lost 72 pounds. I figured
72
because
pounds?
when I got back to England, I weighed 110, and I had a long leg cast on.
So the cast probably weighed 15, 20 pounds.
Well, I don't know, but it was a bunglesome son of a bitch, and it was from there down.
Did the Germans, you say they did put a cast on your leg?
They did, eventually, I'm up 11 days later, but I had to watch them push all the bones back in place without anesthetic. And I was so goddamn, and I swore at them, I called them everything I could think of to keep from passing out, really.
Yes.
And, because nobody had anesthetic. Amputees or nobody. And then the second, they took me to that little farmyard and then another farmyard and then to a Catholic church, I think. And they were operating on the amputees there, both Germans and Americans that were amputees, legs and arms, without anesthetic, using butcher knives.
Not like the Civil War, huh?
Yeah, because they had run out.
Mm-hmm.
Anesthetic or whatever, and you could hear them scream when they started cutting. When they cut the bone, and then they would wake up and scream again, and pass out again. And I was there. I don't know how far it was. It wasn't very far from where I got shot. Probably 5 miles at the most. The thing that pissed me off more than anything else, when they dragged me back from where I was shot on a guy's back, and every time he'd take a step with his left leg back, and it would come back and hit my leg, and I would pass out or damn near pass out, and I was screaming, "You son of a bitch, take a little care, you're hitting my leg." And of course he didn't pay no attention to it.
Probably didn't even understand either.
No, well, he didn't understand my English. I told him everything, I woke up against the wine cellar, and 2 old farmers were there. And I asked him for a cigarette, and he got some old Durham out and rolled me 2. And then another one officer, but it was some sort of a medic, who supposedly was in charge. He came, and he saw them, and they had given me a bowl of cognac, hot cognac, sling. and it was probably that big around, and deep, and I drank that. Boy, I drank it right down. And then I lost so much blood. It could have been the cognac too. I don't know. But anyway, I was relaxed as hell. I was still shaking, but anyway, he saw them talking to me. He got a young guy, and he indicated that them Frenchmen better not be giving me anything else. They did offer to give me another cognac slip, but he wouldn't let them. And then they brought an old 36 Ford ambulance up with the driver's seat driving the wheel on the right-hand side, you know. And they made me get into that by myself. And that's when they took me to the second place. And so then I went from there to that Catholic. It must have been a church or something, because there was priests there, and took me down into the basement, and there was a big room, quite long but very narrow. So they had guys lined up on either side of the long part with their feet towards that end. And then I was on the other side of the room, this way. And I was laying right under a statue of Jesus and two shepherds. Every time a bomb would explode in the area, statue of Jesus was probably 10 foot tall. That was how big Jesus was, and the two shepherds were probably as big as you and I are. And the staff would come out of this one shepherd's arm right here. It was, and I'd push it back in. And then I heard later that that statue of Jesus had fallen over and crushed 3 guys. And so, but anyway, that's where they were operating a lot of anesthetic, teeth and stuff. And they were operating on Germans as well as Americans. So I don't know how long they stayed there or anything or whatever. But they moved me out the next day. I remember I had to take a leak real bad at night, and they brought me a number 10 can, and they hadn't cleaned it out very good, and it got sticky all over my finger when I grabbed it, and then I tried to urinate it. It's stickier than hell. I couldn't tell what it was, you know. I thought, Jesus, it could be someone's blood or something, you know. And it was apple butter, and they just had brought it to use it as a urinal or whatever for anybody who wanted it. And I, being in the dark, I couldn't see. There was no light in there. And I had that guy right at my feet. He had been hit in the stomach with shrapnel. He kept hitting my leg, you know. And I kept saying, "You son of a bitch," and he was out of it. He didn't, I felt sorry for him. He was unconscious, really, whatever, hallucinating or something. He was flailing his arms all the time. And every time he'd hit my leg, I'd give him hell, you know. I'd say, "You son of a bitch, don't hit the goddamn leg." Because it's killed me. Right? And so, I don't know whatever happened to him. If he survived or didn't, I don't know. I have no idea. And but they ended up after I left there, they took me in a bus, and they had seats on both sides, solid seats, and in the middle there was nothing except they could lay 1 or 2 guys in there. And I was on the floor on my back, and they had taken all my clothes except my undershorts and my underwear top. And thus I ran across a German paratrooper on that bus, and I had my one boot on my chest, and the other one was laying by my side down here. And he wanted to see my boots, and I thought he was going to steal them. I didn't trust this son of a bitch. And so he looked like he was, but I didn't know. Maybe he'd like him and want to keep him. And so he took one of his boots off and handed it to me first to show me that he just wanted to see him, And I looked at it, and they had hobnail boots, nails in the soles so they could make a lot of noise when they walked. They had zippers on their boots. You didn't have to unlace them. And they had laces, but nobody ever. They apparently had some shoe cobbler put the zippers on so they could get them on quicker. And so he looked at mine, and he said, nice, he smiled, handed it back to me. And he put his boot back on. And they stopped at some little town and picked up some carrots and something else. And they shared exactly. That's one thing about it. I think the German soldiers shared any food they had together. So I got as much as any of the Germans who were sitting on the side benches. They were all Germans except me and the floor of this bus. A little bit of straw. And they hit the bumps in the road and crises, And because they weren't good roads, they were mostly dirt roads. And I don't think we were even on a Tarvia road or a cement road anywhere.
When you were recaptured, what happened there? Did the Germans just disappear and
they
leave you
tried,
there?
The French underground got in touch with the Allies and said that they were starting to move the POWs who could walk. They were going to try to get them to Germany. And so the French underground got in touch with the Allies, said that that's what they were doing. And so the 4th Armored, I think it was, came in and shut off the Brest Peninsula and sealed it off, and so they couldn't get through anymore. The Germans couldn't. And then they started shelling the town. And somebody said that one of the mortar shells, 81 mortar, came through the window on the 2nd floor, exploded, tore the legs right off of one of the beds, and nobody got hurt. That's the God's truth, because that's what one of the guys told me, that he was down there, and when it hit, and a couple rooms down, he said the damn shell hit the bed, or under the bed, and knocked all the legs, or just blew the legs right off of the steel bed, and never touched a guy. And I couldn't believe that an 81 millimeter shell would do that. I mean, I knew they would destroy anything, but to not have anyone hurt, And it was, I think, a total of 3 mortar shells hit the hospital, but that was the only one that came into a room. And so, well, anyway, when the 4th Armored came through, the doctors and nurses came the next morning. It was in the late afternoon, and the doctors, American doctors and nurses came in, and they all cried. They couldn't believe what they saw.
The Germans just kind of
they tried to turn their guns in. The guards did, and we took their guns and kicked them out the front door and says, "Go fight the fucking war." I didn't have any sympathy for them, and
they wanted to surrender.
Yeah. And so we just kicked them out and said, go fight the fucking war. And everybody did the same thing, you know. No, I don't think anyone of them ever beat up any of the Germans, but they just said, hey, you're on your own, baby, and go, you want a war, you got a war, fighting. And so that's what happened. And then I remember, when I got my new cast on, that first one, in July 22nd, I think it was, I went down to look for cigarette butts, and a P-51 went over and dropped a fuel tank. And I forgot to tell you that, but they had slip trenches out in the courtyard.
This is when the Germans still had...
Yeah.
You were still a prisoner.
Yeah, and so I went down there to get cigarette butts and to see if I could find any. And this B-51 went over, dropped a fuel tank, and some British soldier said he dropped a bomb. Everybody panicked, you know. And so a bunch of them that could run got in this slip trench with a corrugated and gravel over the top of it. It was like I don't know how it must have been from here to that cover out there long, and just covered up with corrugated metal was curved like that. And I had found a little pair of kids' crutches, and I was leaning way down here trying to run. I had that damn leg out trying to hold that up, and I finally threw the crutches away, and I dove feet first in that damn red shoulder, and it wasn't a bomb, it was this fuel tank that he dropped. So everybody was in there, and by the time I got there, I jumped feet first because I figured it'd go off anyway. And woke up in the coal cellar. They had dragged me back and threw me down a coal chute in the basement of that damn hospital we were in, or it used to be a schoolhouse, and blacker than the hubs of hell, and I couldn't see nothing. I didn't even know where the door was. I had to stumble around in there in the dark to see where I was going. There was a piece of coal on the floor, and I'd stumble, and and I finally got to the door, and it was closed. And I got out of there all by myself, and went upstairs, and of course we hadn't had a chance to brush our teeth or shave, so I didn't look that much worse than a lot of them anyway. But it took 3 baths to clean us up when they took us from the hospital.
This is after the Americans.
Yeah, American, yeah. And I can't remember what hospital unit it was, but it was a tent, all tents, 16-foot tents. And boy, they started feeding us, and we would all eat and vomit.
Your stomachs weren't used to food.
Yeah. And besides that, we had maybe dysentery, and we didn't know that. And they didn't check that for 3.5 years. Finally, some of the guys started dying, and they called us all back in.
Found out you had dysentery?
Yeah, all that time. And I was bleeding. I was always having black BMs, and I didn't know that it was blood. And so my stomach gives me a lot of trouble. I can't eat warm enough food or nothing. I just can't do it. And so I'm luckier than...
You've always had a lot of cramps in your legs, too.
In fact, I woke up twice last night with them.
You've had that for years, haven't you?
I passed out a lot of times from it. And that's the only thing the VA has ever done for me. Now, they gave me quinine. And that's the only thing that's ever worked.
Is that for the dysentery or the cramp?
I gotta go to the bathroom.
No, okay. Hello.
Yeah.
So anyway, then you spent some time, what, in the English hospital?
Yeah, until they checked me out and they found out I had bone infection.
I was going to ask you, how did
Yeah.
you keep from getting infection?
Well, I had, and the Germans and the Americans both wanted to cut my leg off.
Did they really?
Yeah, and I said I came in the tube and I'm going to go out the tube. And I did. I sometimes have regretted it, but it wouldn't have made any difference. So I'd rather have my own leg than an artificial one. But when I got discharged, Bob, the hole was still through the tibia. It had never healed because it was shattered so bad, and when they put it back together, they didn't put it back together. And it took a long, long time. I think it was close to 2 years after I got discharged from Fletcher down there that gradually healed up.
Fletcher, now that's in...
Fletcher General in Zanesville, Ohio.
That's where you were.
Yeah.
Now, how, 3 months?
10 months
10 months.
down there.
And then did you go to Percy Jones at all? or-
No, no. They gave you a slip of paper with 3 choices of hospitals, and I put Percy Jones here in Michigan, and I can't remember where else, but it was close as I could get. I figured, and they put me down in Ohio.
Did you say Zanesville?
Oh, I was close to this. It was. What's the name of that damn hospital? I mean, it was Fletcher General. What town was that in, Doris?
I don't think she can hear you.
No. But anyway.
That red light on you.
Oh, that's all right.
Twice I've done that.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not banging up your woodwork.
No, I ain't gonna hurt it. And
Stick to my butt when I get up.
well, anyway. Where the hell was the name of that place? In Cambridge, Ohio.
Cambridge, Ohio.
Cambridge. It was near Zanesville.
Those are pretty tight woven.
Well,
You got a
yeah.
machine?
Well, I got a rolling machine.
Rolling machine. I was going to say, those
Right.
aren't hand rolled.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take one of those home for my wife to try.
Yeah. Well, it's called top tobacco. It's
They're the
real,
ones
they're
that make the
mild.
paper, right?
Yeah. And so I enjoy it, and
So you were there for 10 months, and then you were discharged?
Yeah.
or-
Yeah.
And then you went to Michigan State, right?
Yeah. After I was going to help my dad, roofing in East Round. We were going to go into air conditioning. But I couldn't work over 4 hours at the most a day because it hurt my leg too much. So that's why I decided to go to Michigan State.
Be a teacher.
Yeah. Well, I'd always wanted to coach, or I thought I did.
You had real good luck with your coaching too, didn't you? I mean,
Yeah,
your JV teams here, I know, were very successful.
Oh, they were in all the schools, really. The first year I was in Centerville, I had a 9-7 loss record.
Football?
No, in basketball.
Basketball?
And then the next year was 12-3, and the next year was 15-1. And the night we won or lost the one game, the kids, a lot of them had flu, and we should never have lost the game. And they felt really bad. But we won the championship down in Centerville 2 of the 3 years I was there. And Perry always had good squads ahead, all the McDivitt kids. And I had them in junior high school, freshmen, sophomores. And they got to the state finals. We got beaten after I left there. And so I don't know how successful I never kept statistics or nothing. Which is a big thing today.
Helped a lot of kids. I know my boys sure think the world of you. And always enjoyed you as a teacher and coach.
I gotta admit, I banged a lot of them.
I was gonna tell you a thing I remember about you before you went in the service. A recollection I have. Remember we used to play behind McCartney's barn up there?
Yeah.
And of course, everything was World War I then, you know, that was before World War II. And remember we had slit trenches dug and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And we had bunkers down in the... I remember I was just a little kid and I got too close to you guys one time and you grabbed me and put me in your electric chair.
Yeah, well, I went through that too.
Remember that?
I was the only one that ever would get in it.
What was it, a Magneto, a Model T or something? And you
an
crank
old
it?
telephone.
Oh, is that what it was?
Vern Pinno's dad. He was
Yeah.
a telephone man.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, Roger McCartney, nobody would get in it. So I said, well, I'll get in. I should turn that thing real slow. And old McCartney, I got buckled into that thing, and he started out real slow, but then he went real fast. I couldn't even talk. I thought my knees were up, or my feet were up in my ass, and I thought my elbows was, my hands up in my, here, you know, I couldn't move. And I couldn't talk, I couldn't do nothing.
Well,
He
you did.
finally quit, and then I threw it out the window of the garage.
You did it to me once.
Yeah.
I was, you know, of course, quite a lot younger
Yeah,
than you guys.
but we probably didn't turn it.
But you probably just gave me a couple of little
Yeah.
cranks, but boy, I remember it scared the
Yeah.
daylights out of me. I never
Yeah.
went near there again. But we used to have a lot of fun.
Our shop,
Remember
Vern Pinno right in the eye one there, right under the eye with a BB gun. We used to play Raid the Fort, you know, and that.
World War I, the
yeah.
guys recreating World War I.
And we had a stove, and we had.
Oh, it was
books and
nice
everything.
down there.
It was really
Yeah.
nice, but we had to spend all our money for new glass every time we had a fight, you know. And we
Just
choose
like-
up sides.
Trench warfare in
Yeah.
World War I.
Yeah. And I remember the upstairs, they would try to, we'd make believe it was a castle.
In the barn, or?
Yeah, in the barn itself.
Mhm.
And they would try to come up the stairs, and we used boiler things and garbage can things and everything.
For shields and
And
swords.
even mattresses, old mattresses and stuff. And we would stone or throw green walnuts in the legs. And a pike that Mr. Pinu had from the telephone company. And we would push him downstairs with a mattress. We would jab the mattress and them under it. And down the steps they'd go.
Oh,
And
you remember the stagecoach in the McCartney
Oh,
boys
God,
had
yes.
with the ponies? And
Yeah,
got an old rough
Right.
box from the funeral home and
Yeah.
made a really neat stagecoach.
yeah. I remember the soapbox derbies we used to make too. I had the best soapbox derby of anybody in town. And we used to hook the ponies up, and Rosie would always, you know, we'd come to a corner in the block. We tried to see who could go around the block the fastest. And
Rosie
that
was
damn
the-
Rosie would
always go between the last tree in the block and so then the soapbox would come around the corner and then when it went on the inside of the rope one and the inside busted the hell out of soapbox derbies up, I'll tell you. And God. No, we had some exciting, but we made all our own toys.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We did. That was one thing about the Depression or poor times. We learned to use our
Learned to
imagination.
improvise. And
Yeah.
You remember I remember Fokker D7 you made out of orange crates. You
Oh,
got it
yeah.
down behind Orv Garlinger's store.
Yeah.
Just used the ends and thin boards and made it
Yeah.
beautiful. I remember that. I mean, you
Yeah.
can
I
still
wish
see
I
that
could
plane.
have them because it had anything they ever had on our train.
Yeah.
It was so much better than what they ever had.
That was, I remember it was bright red with
Yeah.
black crosses on it. It was
Yeah.
really a neat airplane.
Yeah. I made some other, I can't remember the American made two wingers too.
Well, to get back to D-Day, I remember, of course, I was about 13 years old. And, of course, a good friend of your brother Bob.
Yeah.
And I remember we went to church, Methodist church, and prayed for all the guys that were going to be involved in that.
I appreciate
Yeah.
it. No, you never know, but your prayers might have been the thing that saved me.
I was going to ask you, was your mother still alive when you were in the service? Did she
I
die
was
before?
when I went in, but we had just moved down to Texas, and I got a telegram. Corporal Grady come over. I just got a bunch of new recruits in, and he said, "Your mother's dead." And I grabbed him, I threw him down the steps of the barracks, and I was on him like hair on a dog, and I said, "You son of a bitch, don't you ever say anything like that about my mother being dead again." He said, "I'm not kidding you, Corporal." He said, "We just got the telegram from
He wasn't
your
very
dad."
diplomatic about
No,
it.
he didn't realize what he, no. And he apologized, and I apologized to him because he was a real good friend of mine.
Did she die of a heart
Attack, yeah, massive heart attack.
Mhm.
And
She wasn't all that old either, was she?
43.
43
Yeah.
years old.
And I got at Texarkana, Texas. I picked the train up, and there was 2 women on it, and it was crowded as heck on the passenger trains in those days because everything was military.
Mhm.
And so these 2 women are standing in the aisle beside me, and that's the first time I ever hated a woman or women. I said to them, I said, "Well, I found out they were going back east someplace." And I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. It's my seat, but I'll be glad to share it with you. If you want, I'll get out now and let you ride, and then when you one of you get tired, I'll stand and you and she can exchange and then give it back to me."
Mhm.
Them 2 women, oh yeah, I would love that. They never, I stood up from Texarkana, Texas to Chicago, Illinois, and they stopped at every goddamn milk stop, little town, all the way up through, picking up more passengers, dropping more off. I never got to sit up.
And they never let you sit down again?
No. And they would weasel out. One would just grab the seat and gradually work out, and the other one slide in. Never offered to give it. That's the first time I ever hated one.
Not the last.
No, but it's the first time, because I always held women in high esteem.
Mhm.
And I always said I'd never give a seat up to a woman after that. Of course I have, but I knew who they were or whatever. And but we never had any money when I was growing up, but I think we learned more about ingenuity and everything than kids know today.
Well,
And,
it's, I'm sure a lot of us are grateful for what you went through to
well,
save
it wasn't
our way
that
of
much,
life.
Bob.
I'll tell
It
you.
wasn't that much, but I was lucky. I got through it, and I got shot 5 days after D-Day. So a lot of guys didn't make it that long.
Mhm.
And some of them never got shot, and went through the whole damn war. And saw so many guys killed. But there was only 13 out of my company survived.
What is the company?
Well, we had about, I think, officers in there, about 187
187?
or 78, I don't know which. But anyway, I lost 174. 187. And,
Probably all the officers were killed too, huh?
because they jumped right with us.
Well, didn't Matt Ridgway jump too?
Yeah. And Gavin, they all jumped.
Mhm.
I remember of a guy in a German hospital with us. He shot a full colonel because he clicked his clicker and the captain or full colonel didn't answer him, and so he shot him. And he went over and it didn't kill the colonel, but he said, "Well, you son of a bitch, I'm an American." He says, "Where's your goddamn clicker password?" And he said, "It ain't my fault. I I clicked and you never answered.
Mhm.
And so he shot himself, an American criminal, and he didn't feel bad about
Luckily,
it.
he didn't kill him, though.
No, he didn't.
Those, you know, I think of you, I don't know where, one of my daughters, I guess Amy, bought a little frog with a clicker just like you did, you know, it
Yeah.
makes the exact same. I meant to bring that over today
Oh, really?
to show you, you know, and so people could hear what that sound is like.
Yeah.
But, it was just little,
little clicker.
little beetle piece
Yeah.
of metal that when you bent it, it clicked. And
Clicked it. Yeah.
that was a pretty clever idea, wasn't it?
And, you know, I can't remember where it was. A while ago, someone said, well, do you know what the password was? And I said, yeah, it's Thunder Welcome.
Mhm.
And I said, it might have changed after a while, but that was our...
As long as you were around, that's
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah. And they couldn't believe it. I can remember that,
Mhm.
you know. But,
50 years later.
yeah.
Well, just like my, I can't remember my Social Security number, but I know my Air Force number.
Air Force
I
number,
know
yeah.
that. I can rattle that off.
Yeah.
Because we had to learn.
Well, mine was 313, or 36414-311.
Now this fellow you were telling about that tried to shoot that machine gunner there that got up there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's probably some
Records, maybe.
records
but
someplace,
I
but
don't
you
know.
whether his family would still be around. Or...
The guy in the bed next to me in the German hospital, his name was Limbo. And when I got through college, I was teaching Centerville.
Mhm.
Doris and I went on a senior trip. And when we got to Zanesville, I knew that was where he's from, because he told me. And so I asked the bus driver and the students if it'd be okay if I took a little trip and see if he was still around, you know. And because we were right in Zanesville, and I looked up his mother, and she was in an upstairs apartment in the stores downtown. She just started crying like heck. And she said, he doesn't live here now. He lives in the town that you really gone to, I'm sure. A little town up north of here. And he's an alcoholic. He had been shot in the plane before he jumped it. And so he jumped with a broken leg, but when he landed, it pushed the femur by each other 3 inches.
Mm.
And so his leg was way out of line and everything. And the Germans didn't set it until it was too late. And it was already starting to knit. And when they put that traction thing on it, he went through hell every day. So every night we would take and loosen the traction. And so he'd get a little rest. And so anyway, his mother said, well, he married a girl that wasn't good for him. And he's an alcoholic now. He's on the Skid Row, I think. And just a real nice, easy-going guy. But I always felt sorry for him. And
Would it be alright if I took that off the wall and
Yeah,
you tell me about some of the
I don't know all of them, Bob. I don't really have any idea. You can just lift it up a little bit and it'll come right down. I got the Purple Heart, I know that, and the POW one. And so, well,
Let me pick this thing up so that I don't.
this person is Purple Heart, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
The next one beside it is my prisoner of war one.
Mm-hmm.
And
You
the
get
third
it.
one is a good conduct memo, and I don't know what the rest of them are for.
Mhm.
This is the Le Croix de Guerre, I think was a French decoration,
Mm-hmm.
that green thing there.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I don't know what all the rest of them are.
And you were a corporal when you.
Well, that was the highest rank I ever got. I wasn't a corporal when I was overseas because we took a voluntary bus to go with our guys.
Mm-hmm.
3 of us, 2 sergeants and myself.
Mm-hmm. That's your boxing medal there.
Yeah.
And your paratrooper's badge, that's probably one that meant the most to you, huh?
Yeah.
And a picture of you when you were
I just got
50 years younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. Your marksman deal?
Well, I didn't do very good with the rifle. I got better with a carbine than I did rifle. But I must not have had my glasses on.
You wore glasses way back then, didn't you? Besides Bob, your younger brother, that's a good friend of mine, you got a twin sister, right?
Yeah. She's about an hour younger than I am. And
Lives over in Woodland?
yeah. And I always call her my older sister. And she gets mad at me.
She's a great gal.
And yeah.
You guys going to the
Reunion?
alumni banquet?
Yeah, we always try to go.
I hope they don't have a speaker that's as long-winded as some of them have been.
Well, I think he learned a lot.
It was interesting, but geez, one of the main reasons you go to that thing is to visit with people,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and there wasn't any time left. Everybody took off when the thing was over.
Yeah.
When the
Well,
speech
they
was
gotta cut it down, I know that. And I'm sure that there's been enough people telling me that, you know,
Tell
these
me.
guys.
Tell me a little bit about these three guys that you play golf with for the
them-
last, what, 25 years?
Yeah, 25 or 26 years. Well, Bill Ekstrom, my former boss, was nothing but a dummy. Bud Scheid, who ran a hardware all his life, and he never worked other than to lift a pound of eights every once in a while. And Jerry Ekman, who's German, and I hate the son of it because of that. But
Now,
we've had a lot of good times.
well, you, as I understand it, you get together, and if it's the least threatening, you look and see which way the sky
yeah,
is.
we drive right into the eye of the storm.
Well, I thought you picked the spot that looked the lightest.
No, you drive right into
Oh,
it
you go to
because
the-
that time, by the time you get there,
It's gone by. I
it's
see. Well,
already
that's
gone
good
by.
thinking.
Yeah,
And you played every course in Central Michigan, haven't
yeah,
you?
yeah, we have.
Every Wednesday for 26 years.
25, 26, maybe 27, I don't know, years. We were trying to figure that out one time, and we can't ever decide.
Now, what the partners are always the same, right?
Yeah, Jerry and I stand Bud and Bill. And I remember when Bill was superintendent, he had either called over there to the high school or to where his office was. And I said, "Is Dummy there?" And Peg Faulkner would always say, "You shouldn't say that, Jack. You know, that's not nice." And I'd say, "Well, everybody in the town knows he's dumb."
She defended him. Huh?
Yeah, she always did. And I never called him anything but that. And because everybody knows that he's a dummy.
I substituted one time. Remember when we went over to Hastings?
Yeah.
And I forgot who I was substituting for. Whether it was Bud or Bill was there. You know, I think it was Bud I substituted for.
Yeah. It might have been.
Yeah, I
That's when
remember
he had his surgery.
The very first green. I think Ekman had about a 2.5 foot putt that was pretty important.
Yeah.
And Bill puts his head shadow right between the ball and the cup and starts moving his head around, you know.
Yeah.
Jerry started
They broke
cussing
you
him
in.
out.
They broke you in.
He
probably.
missed the putt.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the next tee, or maybe it was the first tee, I'm just about in my backswing, and then somebody hollered something, and
Yeah. Well,
It got
Paul,
so
we
that-
destroy Paul every time he plays with us. You know, he's a good golfer. That's
well, it destroyed me, and I'm not a good golfer.
Well, Bud went. He started his cart up down at Michigan State on the 18th hole. We were tied going into the 18th hole, and we were teeing off, approaching the clubhouse. And just as I started to swing, Bud started the cart up and went about that far from my golf ball. And geez, We lost the match because of it. But anything went. Bill and Bud threw their putters on the green one day and crossed like that. The shafts did. And Jerry putted, went right over both of them and ran to the cup. And they lost that day.
They couldn't believe
but
that.
Anything goes, you know.
Well, I'll tell you, it got so at the end of the deal, if somebody didn't holler or do something when I was teeing off, it threw me off because I was used to it.
Yeah.
You know, you really get kind of used to that kind of heckling.
Yeah. When Sue wasn't, did you tell me that or somebody else? When Dave was playing.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember I ever said that, but I know I have to.
I'll tell you, my two nephews, I think it was Tommy and Scott, you know, told me about it. And they laughed so they were holding their sides, they laughed so hard.
I never swore like that. Reed, you son of a bitch.
Well, tell them the whole story about how Dave was playing behind you.
Dave was
just
playing behind us. Yeah. And it was just a practice run, but he got in the trees.
Those pine trees about 6-8 feet.
And he was cussing to be hell because every time he tried to swing, he hit another pine tree. And I could hear him swearing. And I was with them other two guys, and that's what rustled them up. Yeah, Scott.
Scott, I think.
Yeah. And I said, Reed, you son of a bitch. If I hear you swearing more, I'll come over and kick your ass.
Well, they said you cupped your mouth like this so you could, the sound would travel real good. And I guess they laughed hard. They fell right down on the green. They laughed hard.
Yeah. But he understood what I said.
Yeah, he didn't swear anymore.
He didn't swear anymore. Because he knew if I said it, I'd do it, you know. Well, I've done a lot of that.
I told you about the time when he was a freshman and we were eating supper and he starts rubbing his shoulder and kind of lifting his arm up and down a little bit and going like this. And I said, what's the matter, Dave? Oh, he says, I got my first one from Mr. Lambert today. I said, what happened? Well, he says, what was that good athlete from Sunfield? I forgot the name. Anyway, he says, the other kid and I were out in the hall. Mr. Lambert said, if you guys aren't in when the bell rings, you're going to get one. He says, the bell rang and this other kid just made it in, but he said, I didn't quite make it in. He said, he punched me right there in that bony part. He said, spun me around. He says, geez, Dad, he said, that still hurts. I said, I bet the next time he tells you to get in, he says, yeah, I'll make it next time.
Well, yeah, I hated to hit Dave because I always really liked him. But, you can't be sympathetic.
You got to be fair with your discipline.
And all of them.
That's why all the kids respected you, because they knew they had it coming.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but I always...
Doug never had any art classes much, did he? He wasn't much the artist.
Brett, Dave were the only two.
Brett, of course, he sure learned a lot from you.
Yeah.
All the wire sculpturing he did.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it was a lot of fun. I got a lot of good memories of teaching, but the first school I taught at down in Centerville, they had run 3 teachers out the year before. The kids had, and
was this art department?
No, this was just a regular teaching. The only thing on my contract down there was my salary and my name. They filled in what I was going to teach and everything. They
didn't even ask you.
Back in those days, they didn't have a contract or anything, and you just taught with the superintendent. If he needed an English teacher, you were an English teacher. And I did teach English. Well, Doris taught it really, and I took her lesson plans to school. And we'd go to that end of it, and if some kids asked me something, I'd say, I'll tell you tomorrow. That's the only way I could get through. Because she's really good in English, vocabulary, and prepositional phrases and all that. And I was never an English person. And But the first day I walked into the class, in the 10th grade sociology class, and there was an aisle right down through the middle, and I wrote my name on the board, and I turned around and I said, okay, let's quiet down. We got work to do. Nobody paid a bit of attention. Maybe one or two kids out of the whole class. So I just took my glasses off, and I walked down, and the biggest guy on the left-hand side of the aisle, I hit him and put him right down in the aisle. And I come through with the right, and I knocked the guy right across from him, right on top of me. And I didn't say another word. I just walked up to the front of the room, and you could hear a goddamn pin drop in there. And I was there 3 years, and I never had another kid ever contest me, I'll tell you. And I explained to him that I had been in the 82nd Airborne. They had been shot. I was a prisoner of war and spent 14 months in the hospital. I said, I don't fear nobody in this goddamn town or this earth. I fear God. It's the only one I fear. And don't you ever forget it. And boy, they didn't either. And
oh, geez, I wish we had more teachers like that.
yeah. But anyway, boy, I'll tell you, everybody in that whole town called me Biggie, because that was when Biggie Martin was coaching Michigan State. But they all called me. Doesn't matter, adults and kids all called me Biggie for the rest of the time I was there. And I hated to leave, but they sold my house. The guy who I rented from died. His daughter was from New York, and she wanted to
Centerville.
yeah. And so she sold the house, and they evicted me. And housing was so bad, you know, back in those
And then went from there to Perry.
And then went from there to Perry. And I was there 9 years. They offered me a contract 2 years before I came back here. They offered me a total of 3 contracts. And I took the last one because I figured they might change their mind. Is that a Kleenex?
Paper towel.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I accepted the third one. But the reason I didn't accept the first 2 was because I had just built a house.
I remember that.
And I didn't have enough equity.
I think I went with Bob once to visit you there.
They finally, I sold it to an old guy and his wife. She was a teacher and he was a meat market. And Jeff went back quite a few years later, and they had never painted any color changes or nothing. It was all exactly the same way as when we left it. And I had repainted all the rooms and everything, and it was new house. So Jeff said it was just like walking in the house. But
I wonder, could we take the camera and go downstairs and look at some of your artwork?
yeah, sure. Very
How's
much
that
of
sound?
about.
You've given a lot of it away, huh? This is one you did over by Bob's. Is this acrylic, Jack?
No, it's oil. I didn't put any varnish on it or anything. I just left it. That's why it looks lighter and darker.
This is one your dad did up here, isn't it?
No, that's not what I did.
Is that one you did? Your
Yeah,
dad used to do.
many years ago.
Your dad used to do a lot of those, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a deer skin
Yeah. Pig skin.
or pig skin.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Let me turn it around. There's some jugs on the other side of it.
Yeah.
This one I gave to Lori when she was in the Navy. You know,
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
shop to
Cast iron stuff.
Yeah. I got them up in the garage.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's neat. Now you built this house new.
About 27 years ago. Yeah, I got all the goodness.
It's a nice spot.
Yeah.
You got a beautiful backyard.
Well, Bob gave me that honey locust out there. And it was only about this tall.
Oh really?
And now it's,
Oh, this one here.
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
That isn't the one that gets golden color, is it?
No,
It doesn't have beans on it?
no.
Sometimes, you know, those darn things don't start talking yet. So this one on the left is New York too, right?
Yeah. That's another view of that same barn.
That's really neat. Looks like an Andrew Wyeth almost. That's neat.
A string sculpture over there, I did that at school.
Oh,
That's an example of what they could do, and the little pot lickers never did it.
Never went.
It was
Too time consuming.
Yeah. They wanted to do it simple.
And this barn is where now?
That's up by Blanchard, and my dad painted it.
You were born up by Blanchard, weren't you?
Yeah.
Your dad painted that one?
Yeah. That was my inheritance.
Your dad has been gone how many years now?
I don't remember. He was just about 80 when he died.
He had a pretty full life, didn't he?
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun up there, and White Cloud, that's where he lived?
Yeah. He used to teach school, and then he quit teaching and bought a fireman, and the Depression hit and lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we moved to Lake Besson when I was like 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And
This is one of my favorites. That's a beauty. I like that one. Now, is this a New York barn too?
Yeah, that's down the road just a little ways from the mother too.
Uh-huh. Near where Delmar, where Bob used to live?
Yeah.
Or is it near Morrisville, where he lives now?
Near Morrisville.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is the one I got you to modify.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
This is a painting that Jack did, and he had, what was it, 6 jugs in it?
Yeah.
And I said, Jack, you can't have
Yeah, and then after
even numbers.
Painting it, I was painting it out in the garage, and it was all a 1/4 inch off because the roof or the floor slanted. So I had to
do it all over
40
again.
more hours of work to straighten them out. God,
So which jug is the one you added? You remember?
I can't remember now.
I couldn't believe that. I came back and he said, well, I fixed that painting you didn't like. That's pretty good. That's a neat one. I love that one.
Yeah, that's it doesn't have any background or anything.
Mhm.
It's just all black, and
Mhm.
I painted it that way because I wanted people not to have to look at the thing and not have to have a table.
Have anything in the background, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about that Indian over there? Do you do that too?
Kurt Geil did that. He's
Oh, yeah.
colorblind. And he's
What
one of my former
is
students.
Kurt still around?
Yeah, he lives in Arkansas.
How's he doing?
For
Amway?
not Amway, the steel
Steel case?
case, yeah.
Uh-huh. He's a talented kid, wasn't
He was excellent, but he can only paint in black and white.
he? Because he's colorblind.
Yeah.
Isn't that a shame?
We painted a scene for the Baptist church out there across from high school for
Uh-huh.
their baptismal
Uh-huh.
thing, and he helped us. And Frank Nita had to mix up the paint for him because he couldn't.
Couldn't tell the color.
The trees might have been purple. He wouldn't have known it. Yeah, it looked like it was dark, And
What do you say we go outside and get a few shots of your house?
okay, yeah.
No, I really like that car. Now, you built this house 27 years ago, you say?
In 1964, we
Mhm.
moved in March 29th.
So you've been here quite a long time, haven't you?
Yeah.
Huh?
I replaced all the windows.
I see.
Siding.
I see you got some nice roof vents up there.
Yeah.
Are those always there, or did you add those?
Well, we had it done
Mm-hmm.
when
Claire Jackson
3 years
put the
ago,
roof
I
on.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a picture of my garage inside because we forgot that.
Oh, I was going to go and take a picture of your,
Barn siding.
well, you know, your fishing thing you go ice fishing with. You still doing a lot of ice fishing?
Well, I did this year.
Too darn cold, huh?
Yeah. How are you doing? Huh? No. I don't believe in it.